Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Stand Up Taller podcast with your hosts, Al Martin and Neil Berliner.
Hey, hello, everybody. Al Martin here. Thank you, Joseph, for that lovely introduction. And we have, of course, the talented Jason Scoop and my co-host, Neil Berliner. And Neil, I am excited about today's show.
Today's guest, we both know for a long time, and we'll get to him, but let's just talk about our week because we always talk about the food we eat. And last Saturday, we broke bread together with our wives, didn't we?
Yes, except it was on Friday. I'm not sure where you were on Saturday.
Saturday is my good night. I gave you the Friday, Saturday,
I was actually supposed to possibly meet Tom Cotter at the Cheesecake Factory, but that didn't happen.
That's interesting because the last time I saw Tom in person was at the Boca Raton Cheesecake Factory.
Yes.
Remember who was with us there, Tom? You just do so much stuff you probably don't know.
I was just there Saturday night. I was there with Dick Capri, Arnold Graham, and Stephen Scott.
When you said Dick Capri, I was hoping you wouldn't say Freddie Roman too, because
yeah, well, that would be awkward. Yeah,
that would be awkward. The last time we got together at the Boca Raton Cheesecake Factory, it was you, me, Michelle Ballin, Grodin, and also Bruce Smirnoff. Is that his name, Bruce?
Smirnoff.
Yeah. That was years ago. Anyway, lol. But
anytime I think of the Cheesecake Factory, I think of an older male comedian years ago when I was younger tried to molest me there. Yeah. I don't want to say the guy's name. He's deceased now. He's no longer with us.
We have initials?
He's with God. Yeah. His first name started with I don't want to say.
Come on. We have enough legal problems with this show.
He's dead already. Who cares?
No, I mean, I don't want to disrespect. He was a nice guy, but he's like, come, I'll talk to you about comedy. So then we're sitting there eating, and he puts his hand on my leg, and he's like, "You're real cute." And I'm like, "Okay, thanks, buddy." But yeah, all right.
I don't say it, and we'll edit it out.
I don't want to be a comedian that bad.
In my defense, I was a little drunk, so
I got to tell you a story. You just reminded Jason. You reminded me of something. I was at Jonathan Winter's house for an entire day. I produced the last TV interview of Jonathan Winters. It was an amazing time, and he did like a private performance for me and a couple of friends of mine. Anyway, he told us that when he started out, he's from Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
I won't name the guy either, but when he started out, another comedian from Ohio was in the same hotel, an established comedian, and Jonathan Winters, got the courage up and knocked on his door and said, I'm Jonathan Winters. I'm just starting out in comedy, and we're both from Ohio. If you could give me some pointers. And the guy asked him to give him oral sex in the doorway for some pointers.
Uh-oh.
Jonathan told me I'll tell you guys after the show who it was.
Did he do it?
Well, you see where he went. He went very far in comedy.
He did.
He went very far. So, I'm not telling you what to do. But so anyway, about our dinner, Al, I was very disappointed in a way. And I'll tell you why. I finally get to go to dinner with Al. I'm prepared to eat like a feast. And all of a sudden, he starts a diet the night of our dinner, right? I mean, I go, Al, they got great flatbread with gorgonzola. Oh, it's okay. I won't have the flatbread. And then the dessert, I'm all ready. I go, Al, I'm going to get key lime. How about you? He goes, I'm going to pass. I'm the only one eating dessert. And Al says to me, while I'm eating the key lime pie, he goes, can I just have that strawberry on top?
You know what I feel like right now? I feel like the girl who everybody likes to go out with for her looks, but then they don't want to talk about her intelligence. I'm trying to lose some weight, and now nobody wants to hang out with me because I'm a boring food eater.
Let me tell you, it's fine that you're losing weight, but you had to pick the day that I'm going out to dinner with you. You had to choose last Friday as your start date.
That's the problem. You got to lose the weight.
I'm glad you're doing it. I'm happy you're doing it. Anyway, let's get on to this. We got a great guest today. Al, I bet you know Tom longer than I do. I know Tom 15 years. How about you, Al?
Tom, I booked you back in the day at the comedy clubs, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
Probably 30 years, 25 at least.
Wow.
30. Yeah, at least. And actually, the last time I saw him was at the Cheesecake Factory too.
I live there.
That's funny.
You know, I used to go there all the time when I owned that Boca Black Box when it used to be New York Comedy Club. So after the shows, we would always go there. It became sort of the South Florida Kiev, if you remember Kiev in the East Village, where all the comics used to hang out after all the shows. They'd sort of all meet at Kiev on the East Village, and it became Veselka. I didn't become a Veselka, but then people started going to Veselka. Imagine the talent people would see in that restaurant at like 2:00 in the morning, you know, eating potato pierogies. You had Todd Barry, you had Mark Maron, you had Sarah Silverman, Dave Attell. All these guys were just, you know, hanging out there eating.
Wow. Must be the pierogies that made him funny, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
I love those late night eating places, and it goes back to the Catskills. Like after the Catskills, those guys would do 5-6 shows a night at 6 different venues, and they'd all meet at some coffee shop late at night. I love it when when comics get together and hang out. I don't like it when cops hang out. That's uncomfortable.
You know, Neil, I got to see Tom at a couple of Stephen Scott had these cigar nights over at the
Cigar and a joke night.
Yeah, joke night. And man, you know, of course Jeff Parami was funny. A lot of guys were funny, Jackie Martling. But when Tom got up there, he just blew that room apart. I mean, it was incredible.
You have impeccable taste, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, and
I'll tell you something great about Tom. There's a lot of great things, but I'll tell you one thing. He's a high LPM comedian, and that refers to laughs per minute. If you look at Tom's stuff, he hammers away, and the punchlines come so quick. It's like a machine gun. It's unbelievable, and they're all top-notch stuff. It's all top-notch stuff. So you're getting quality and quantity.
Let's be honest. It's quantity over quality. There are a lot of jokes, but
yes. But you know what Richard Belzer said once? He goes, "I do cocaine because it makes you talk so much, and you know some of it that's going to come out is going to be funny." So. But for you, such a high percentage is so funny. I mean,
it's ADD. I can't. Yeah, my wife is a storyteller. As you know, my wife's a comic, and she tells these long stories with pregnant pauses, and it drives me crazy. You know, she'll like turn around and get a long sip of her drink, and I'm like, "Shit, say something." You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's her birthday today, right? Is it her birthday today?
Yesterday was her birthday. Thanks for knowing
that. Oh wow! Happy birthday!
Yeah.
You know,
Tom,
I remember when I first started in comedy, you know, because of the weird hours we all work, it was, you know, very hard to have a normal social life, you know, because we work Friday and Saturday and everybody else works, you know, Monday to Friday, most people. And we work during the day, you know, we work at night, they work during the day. So at first, the only people I sort of dated were in the comedy business, but I found it very frustrating myself because, you know, all you did was talk about the business. And I also found there was a lot of competition between the people I was dating and myself or going out with, you know, like if you got something and they didn't get it or vice versa. So how have you been able to navigate that through the years, being married to a comedian as well?
You know, that is a slippery slope. And I've talked to other comedy couples that have said the same thing, that, you know, the competition thing was big. Like when the whole Louis C.K. thing came out, my wife was offended that she wasn't asked to be in the room when he masturbated. And so that really offended her because she's very competitive. And when she found out that he asked me to watch, very, very uncomfortable for everybody. But yeah, she, you know, when they're looking for a funny female, they're not looking for me. And when they're looking for a funny dude, they're not looking for her. And so now we're kind of over that because all the money goes in the same bank account. But there was a time where, like Esty, for example, at the Comedy Cellar would use me and just at the time wasn't using Kerry. And so Esty would call to give me my spots and Kerry would answer the phone. It was very uncomfortable for a while. But for hours afterwards. But we've kind of grown over that. We're married 21 years now, and we were together for a while before that. So I think all that crap is in the back, and we're really rooting for each other.
That's great.
Jason, you wanted to ask something of Tom, right? Jason, you wanted to ask something?
I can't even remember what I wanted to say. I mean, I could add something new to the new what we're talking about right now.
Jason, we won't know the difference. So just
Yeah.
Right, sure.
Let's not make it complicated, Jason.
Well, I'll say this. My girlfriend, she kind of dabbles in comedy, but she's in show business. She's an actress and everything. And I will say, I don't know. I hope she doesn't watch this, but you know what? I feel like being very honest today. She's the only woman I've ever been with where I get recognized on the street from like mainly TikTok. And normally if a girl's standing next to you and you're recognized there, it's like, oh my God, I'll be recognized. She'll be like, no reaction. And then she'll be like, I think it's kind of messed up that they're fans of yours. You don't even ask them their name. I'm like, first off, I'm just living my life. I'm very appreciative, but well, what do you, I mean, you know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's interesting, but she's a lovely young lady, but yeah, it's weird. It gets weird.
I don't
Things
think
get
it's going
weird.
to work out, buddy. I don't think it's going to work out. Because you need someone that's going to be supportive of you.
Yeah.
No matter what your field is. I don't know what her field is, but I'm assuming you're supportive of her in the acting thing that she's doing now.
Super.
So,
Big time.
if you're not behind each other, then, and not physically, I mean, behind each other, then that's not going to work out, I think, unfortunately. I hate to be a doomsayer, but,
Yeah, that's all right. Well, we'll see whichever way the wind blows the sail, but hey, we'll see.
another great thing about Tom is that he can appeal to every age group. Like you can play the cellar, you can play all these clubs, but you can also come down to Boynton Beach, go to my mother's condo and play to her deceased friends, and they love you.
I was just there. I was there on Saturday night, and I'm going back this week for 3 more. I love being the token Gentile that gets to work at all those gated communities. It's wonderful.
No, do they love you? My God. I remember one time she saw you a year after seeing you. So I said, oh my, you seeing Tom again? I go, that's nice, but how come you seen him again after just 1 year? She goes, I forgot what he said.
That's the joy of the Florida crowd. They don't remember.
I forgot what he said.
Yeah. I'm just now moving into one of those communities. And
Which one can you say?
Yeah. Villa Borghese.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Are you familiar with it?
No, but I like it. Like the sound. Anything with Villa in it.
I love saying it. Villa Borghese.
You love saying it because it's where the Jews who don't want to be Jewish, when they want to sound Italian, so they move there.
Well, actually, I did a DNA test. This was a shocker. Okay.
You're human?
I did one of those, whatever, ancestry.com, and I came back 24% Sicilian.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how the hell that happened, but I guess
what they meant was 24% Sicilian, 76% regular pizza, regular slice.
Yeah. You know what happened? I think when my ancestors 400, 500, 600 years ago ran out of Spain during the Inquisition, they made a number of pit stops around the Mediterranean, and I think, unbeknownst to me, I always thought I was Greek and Turkish and all that sort of fun stuff, but they probably made a pit stop for a couple of generations in Italy.
Well, look, Gianmarco Ceresi is Jewish. His family's all from Italy. Yeah.
That's
I did
right.
the Ancestry.com thing, and now I'm wanted for 6 murders and a kidnapping. Don't do it. I would recommend not doing it.
I don't know why people go on Ancestry, because I don't want to find all relatives. I'm sick of my own relatives that I know about. I don't want to find more.
So, I don't know if you want to talk about it much or have much now. I mean, you've been out on the road. I'm thinking a lot, Tom, but have you heard the latest? I know you were really involved in terms of being there a lot over at the Friars Club. Do you have any thoughts on this? Any feeling? I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, I'm devastated, honestly. It was kind of like a fraternity, and I had my 40th birthday party there. I had my bachelor party there. I went to so many events. Some of the funniest nights of my life were spent there. It was such a great camaraderie you felt there, and to see it go after the historical past, it's just been such a great place for comedians in particular, but all entertainers to gather and kibitz and share stories and stuff. And so the fact that that's gone now is really, really sad for not just personally, but for the entire comedian community and entertainment community in general. I think it's that historical place that we could all hang out and be ourselves without agents and managers and watching over us. It's gone. I don't know if another place will ever exist like that.
Yeah.
You know who's going to be the most upset about that place closing is chiropractors, because a lot of times walk into the Friars Club and someone was talking to me, and then their neck would be going up and sideways just to see who was standing behind me. That was
Yeah, true. I can't deny that, but yeah.
Hey, it was usually Gino Bisconte who was behind you.
yeah, and that's why the doors are padlocked right now.
I heard there's like a big chain on the door right now, and it's very sad. I kind of saw this coming, unfortunately, and I wish, it was like a freight train coming at you, and I wish we could have derailed that freight train, but it just, we were in trouble. All private clubs during the pandemic took a beating, and we were already in trouble. And then we had a big leak and all this other stuff and some legal issues, and it's unfortunate.
It was
I
just
played there in December, and it looked like kind of a morgue, to tell you the truth. It was depressing to me. I could tell the writing was on the wall. Something was going on.
I used to talk to this guy once in a while that initially had gotten me into the Friars Club years ago, and he always used to have a saying when we'd go into a restaurant to get together, if it didn't look good and it looked like, it would have the smell of death, he said. The restaurant had the smell of death. And that's what the Friars Club sort of had. Hi, can I make a reservation for the restaurant? Oh, it's not open. Is the bar area open upstairs? No. So, I mean, like, it really never really recovered, I guess, from the pandemic.
Yeah, they leased it out. They leased the restaurant out to a restaurateur. And I thought that was kind of strange because the dining room was always such an intricate part of the whole club. So that was weird. And then after the flood, they did some remodeling and things and moved some things. The barbershop got moved down to the basement and some other things were moving around. And I don't know. I got a sick feeling in my stomach that might be the sign of the end, and it looks like that's what it was. I hope someone swoops in and buys it and refurbishes it, and the name can be reborn like the phoenix from the ashes. But I'm not holding out much hope for that.
Yeah, I had spoken to someone fairly close to that situation, and they had explained to me that that the person that wrote that article that first broke has seemed to have had a real bad agenda with the club for a very long time. So that some of it might not be completely the truth. My question is, why isn't someone like, usually when you say, if you told me tomorrow Broadway Comedy Club was closed and that guy had an agenda against me, and I really don't plan on closing Broadway Comedy Club, you'd have heard from me right away. Like, what the hell are you talking about? What is this? So the fact that nobody is really coming out from the Friars Club and getting in front of this and saying, hey, this is not true. This is crazy. This guy had an agenda. It's like, I guess it's true because nobody is denying it, right? I mean, that sort of thing.
Wait, so this isn't confirmed?
There are no other articles about it, though, Al. I looked on the internet. That's the only article about it.
Everybody, you know how Facebook is. Someone sees an article and they share it. Now, the only article I've seen shared is by all the comedians and the same article, the same original article. Now, what'll be interesting to find out is a lot of times when news breaks, like if you're a newsman or a newswoman, you find out about it from TMZ, but I mean, it's like nobody else has reported this story except this reporter, Roger Friedman, I believe his name is. So there hasn't really been confirmation, I don't think, from anybody at the Friars Club that says this is true. But then again, there hasn't been a denial. So the whole thing is very bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten official word either. I hope that, we can bounce back from this, but this is yet another body blow. A while ago, we had marshals come in and I guess some postal inspectors come in and seize some file cabinets. That wasn't a good look. We got sued by one of our former employees. That wasn't a good look. The pandemic happened. Then we had the big flood. All these things were just, leading up to unfortunately, the demise of the club. I hope you're right. There are people, Cindy Adams in particular, who have an axe to grind with the club. She hated the way that the club treated her husband.
Right.
30 years ago. And so she took every opportunity to bash the club whenever she could in the press. And other people have as well, because they were denied membership or they had a bad experience there or something happened.
Right.
But the rest of us, we just want the club. I want the club to come back. I could do without the fat old guys in the steam room. There are some things that we could do without, but as a whole, it's just such a great atmosphere and I've had such great experiences there, and so many of my friends have as well, that I'd love to see it rebound in some way, shape, or form.
Well, there you go. You talked about one area of it, the steam room. I say let's make them co-ed steam rooms. You'll see that go right through the roof.
With transgenders, isn't every steam room co-ed now?
Yeah, right.
We have to accept.
I was just going to suggest that not everyone maybe knows about this article that has come out recently. Just if you give a brief synopsis, maybe if you want to, about kind of what's been said is going on. Just that the Friars Club is closing.
Yeah, basically,
Padlock.
it was a picture of the Friars Club with a padlock in front of it, basically saying, places closed after a long storied history. You do have Google there, right, Joe?
Yeah, I during my hours where I'm allowed to use it. Yeah, I can use it. Yeah, here. I mean, I'm just looking up Friars Club closed, and yeah, there's this one thing.
It's just the one thing. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
retort to that, though, is that it was the photo was taken on like a Sunday, which is when the club is normally closed anyway. The club isn't open every day. So,
Right.
And there's always that gate because it's Manhattan. You have to have a gate with a padlock on it. So I hope that they're able to bounce back from this. But all indications I've heard is that the club was in trouble way before this, and trying to dig out of that hole. And I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, like many other private clubs.
Well, Tom, I wanted to go back to the beginning for you. Like, even before you got into comedy, you're the son of a medical doctor, correct? Now, is your dad? What specialty is your dad still practicing?
A neurosurgeon. He was a neurosurgeon. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a similar background. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon. Well, let me rephrase it. He was a clothing salesman, and he pressured me to become a doctor to do better than he would do. Did you have any pressure? Most doctors' sons and daughters have pressure to go into the medical field. Did you have some pressure from your dad to do that?
I think my dad knew I was an idiot and I could never do medicine, but there's 6 kids in my family and not one of us followed his footsteps into the medical field, which is kind of a backstab to my dad. But we saw how busy he was. He worked all the time. In my entire youth, he came to one wrestling match, never came to a lacrosse game, was not around. He was in the operating room when I got out of bed in the morning, and he was doing rounds with his patients when I was tucked into bed. So I never saw the guy. He worked so hard until after he retired, then we saw a lot of him. But yeah, he was not thrilled after paying for 12 years of private school, 4 years of college, that I decided to talk about my penis in front of strangers in basements. But he got over it over time. I have another sibling that keeps going back to the well and asking for money, and I've never done that. So that takes the pressure off of me. So thank God for that waste of sperm. And then, after that, he was very supportive. When I first started doing it, the stuff I was doing, like all of us, was MTV, Comedy Central, stuff that my dad doesn't tune into. So it wasn't until years after I had started that I got the Tonight Show that finally he was like, all right, maybe I'm glad I didn't pull out, because then he could have something to talk to with his friends. But all his friends, he'd go golfing with guys and they were all saying their son was a doctor, a lawyer, a Wall Street guy, whatever. And he had to say, my son is joke boy. And so that was difficult for a while, but he got over it.
Yeah, but you're the only son that those guys were interested in because you were the guy who got to the Tonight Show and America's Got Talent.
I was going to say, and Neil, we had this conversation the other day at dinner. There's a million judges, there's a million lawyers, there's a million doctors. But when you walk into the room and people find out you're affiliated in the comedy business, almost the entire conversation can kind of turn to you very quickly, where people go, do you know this guy? I saw this guy. Is he really this way? And before you know it, nobody gives a crap about the lawyer sitting in the corner. They want to hear your comedy stories, about some of the people or started at your venue or whatever it was,
Well, you're right. Yeah. You were talking about me being both, right? Being in comedy and medicine. that night, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then they're interested in the comedy, but then they find out what I've done in comedy, and then they're not so interested.
I think the irony of the whole thing in Tom's situation is his father does brain surgery, and man, if he had just still been doing it, Tom could have referred so many colleagues that kind of could use brain surgery. If you know,
Yeah.
those comics, right?
I think the reason that the conversation always goes to comedy is because A, I think it's more fascinating to the average human being, and B, the doctor is always getting, does this look infected? Or the lawyer is getting, do I have a case? Stuff like that. They don't want to talk shop, whereas we don't mind talking shop because we'll talk about anything to anybody anytime.
Yeah.
And
And
we're
for
not-
I'm sorry. Listen, for years, I've been wanting to ask you a question. Now that I have a podcast, I mean, literally for years, I've been dying to ask you this.
All right, 6 inches, but that's folded in half.
Right. And yes, the other question I had was, you're most famous, obviously, for America's Got Talent. That was the big thing for you. You've gone on to do so many other things, but that was the jumping point. So you came in second, everybody knows. And it was $1 million first prize. And this is a moronic question. Maybe you've been asked it before, but since I'm a moron, I'm going to go ahead. Was there any benefit in your mind at all, career-wise? It was going to be 50 grand a year for 20 years, right?
I think it's 25 grand a year for 40 years is the annuity. That's how they pay you on.
That's how long they pay that annuity out? Oh my
40
God.
years. It's a 40-year annuity, and nobody ever takes the annuity. They always take the payout, which is after taxes less than $250,000. The payout is 370 grand. After taxes, it's less than 250 apparently. And so people walk with $250,000 and they're happy with it.
All right. So the question becomes a little less relevant. The question is, do you think there was even financial benefit to coming in second and having that fantastic story that everybody still talks about, that the guy came in second to the dogs?
Well, that show it's
to hear that part and be reminded of that again, Neil.
No, I'm wondering if is it of continued benefit to have that
First
story?
of all, I love that you invite one of the shortest comics working today on a podcast called Stand Up Taller. And now
That's
you
why
want
they
to
named it
rehash
that.
how I lost to a goddamn dog act. But, no, everyone asked the question. The show is prime time. There's no other way. We all do Leno, Letterman, Conan, those things. But that's 5 million people. If you're lucky, that's a good demographic for that. And they're half asleep when they're watching you. You're always the third act out of 3. Prime time is a different beast. So unless you're on a sitcom, shows like Last Comic Standing or America's Got Talent that have that huge a viewership watching is of course going to be beneficial. Yes, it was the best thing I ever did. Humiliating that I lost to non-humans. That aside, there is the financial benefit is you're suddenly getting offered gigs that you've never been offered before for ridiculous money that you were never offered before, because A, you're flavor of the month for the first little while after that. But B, later on they have you back on the show and it rekindles, and that audience is so loyal and so ravenous for anything AGT that it's just been I stepped in leprechaun shit getting on that show. And I will tell everybody, as I do every year, people contact me, comics always do. Charlie Hall just did the other day and said, should I do the show? Well, yes, God damn it, do the show. Because even Joe Matarese, who claims he had a bad experience on that show, his first episode, the one in front of the celebrity judges, he got a huge standing ovation. His wife and kids came out on stage and hugged him while streamers fell and shit. And he uses that tape to kick open doors for him. So if that's a bad experience, I'll take that any day of the week.
I could tell you one thing, and I think thinking about it, it's extremely unfair, really, for a comedian to go up against any kind of these acts, because a comedian is basically a guy on stage telling jokes, and it's a one-on-one, one person with the audience experience. Meanwhile, you got these musicians coming out with all sorts of flashy outfits, variety acts with firecrackers shooting out of their ass. I mean, and then you got to compete with this. So I think the fact that you got to where you did with it is just truly incredible.
I was lucky because my judges were Sharon Osbourne, who's the wife of the Prince of Darkness, Howie Mandel, who's a comic, and Howard Stern, who's also basically a comic. So I was lucky with my judges panel, and a comic has never won the show. That's a travesty. I thought Josh Blue would win it last year. I really thought he was going to win the whole thing. And Stern said famously, I want a rock band or a comedian to win this show. And so far, and how many seasons have we had now? 16 or something. We've never won things. So hopefully one day a comedian will win it. But you're right. It is kind of the other thing about the singers is A, they've got the voice, they've got other shows to do. B, they're singing someone else's song. I mean, how difficult, then it's karaoke. And we have to do our own things. And 90 seconds is a tough amount of time. That's all we had my season. Now I guess it's 2 minutes, but 2 minutes even is not enough time to really connect with an audience. So it's really tough for comedians. Magicians win it every other year, which is a pet peeve of mine. And now we call it America's Got Problems because you need to have some horrible sob story to make it to the finals. The other comics that have reached the finals have been, and they're all good guys, but one had Tourette's, one had a stutter. What was Josh Blue has MS or whatever. It's like, how about just a funny dude?
Yeah, you were an unusual act for that show. You were normal.
Yeah.
Well, some would argue that. But yeah, and the other thing is, dear friends of mine, Corey Kahaney and Al Ducharme, who are seasoned pro comics who've been at this for 40 years, they're polished as can be. They go on that show and both of them got beaten by little kids. Al lost to a little girl and Corey lost to a little boy. A 9-year-old boy, seriously? It's better than Corey Kahaney, who's been out there for 40 years, headlining everywhere. Then the show gets a little ridiculous. And oftentimes, as you know, reality is not reality. And that show is
they say a lot of people in Hollywood like 9-year-old boys.
That is true.
And Tom, Corey Kahaney was the other person with us at the Cheesecake Factory. I forgot her. I left her out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So but even they say they had a decent experience and they still use their first audition tapes to get into places and they still work. The show is so well known that tape kicks open doors for people.
Yeah. So it turned out to be an annuity for you. And anyway, didn't matter if you came in second or first. It's an annuity.
It's the best thing I ever did, on my career-wise, I would say. Again, there's just that many eyeballs on you. Yeah. It's a blessing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, you did a fantastic thing recently with this woke culture and all that stuff. You did a comparison of the two songs. Remember that? Right. It was fantastic. I just got to tell you. Baby, it's cold. You did Baby, It's Cold Outside versus what was it? A Wet Ass Pussy. Wet Ass Pussy. Yeah. It was one of the funny. You got to check it out. We won't make you do it. You got to check it out, people. Just go on YouTube. It was fantastic.
That was my first video to go viral, and that was.
Oh, really? Was it really?
Yeah. And then because of that, I did Tucker Carlson twice, and Hannity wanted me to come on. And I said to my manager and some friends, I'm like, I don't want to be known as the conservative comic. That's not what I'm looking for. That's going to eliminate half my audience. So we declined Hannity, although I would have loved that many eyeballs on me. At the same time, I just don't want to be that guy, and I also wouldn't want to be that hard left guy. I don't want to be Dennis Miller on the right or Bill Maher on the left. I want to be appealing to everybody. And so I don't like to pick sides or anything. And so people took that as me shitting all over liberals or Democrats. And I wasn't. I was just saying how ridiculous the concept was of canceling that song that was written in the 1940s versus this song where every other word is lick my pussy, my hole, fuck me this way. It's like, yeah, please, So I was just pointing out the irony of the whole thing.
And I think whatever your political persuasion is, it was fun. You would have to admit that it was a hilarious bit, no matter.
A lot of people on the left said, thanks for pointing this out. And a lot of people on the left are sick of woke. Bill Maher is done with the woke thing, as a lot of people are. It's a cancer on comedy. It really is. Now I had someone to say to me recently that because I said the word homeless, that I was not being sensitive enough, and they weren't being mean about it. They just said, it's undomiciled. And I'm like, keep moving the goddamn goalposts. Don't do this to us. We have enough trouble now figuring out what I can say and what I can't say. And every week there's a new thing we're not allowed to talk about or say. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, unless it's someone that's actually paying the freight, I would just say, thank you very much for your input and just do what you want or need to do. I go through this all the time. On a Monday, one of the things that happens, at least 2 or 3 complaints about someone that's been to a show over the
I
weekend.
imagine. Yeah, I imagine you have to deal with that.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said the word retarded. And then I said, was that about you? Or, but it's like, it's crazy. It's like the best example I talk about with this is that, I don't know, one day I was at the club and I happened to notice a lady. She had a weird outfit on, I guess. And she was laughing at everything a comedian was saying on stage. All of a sudden, she went radio silent on the laughter. And then about 5 minutes later, she was laughing again. And after the show, she comes up and sees me. I was saying, how did you enjoy the show, to all the people on the way out? And she said to me, I really enjoyed the show, except for one comedian made one comment about autistic children. And it really got me because my third cousin has a daughter that's autistic, And I said, listen, I noticed you laughing at the jokes about Jewish people, midgets, 100 other topics. All of a sudden, because you have a third cousin who has a daughter that's autistic, that comedian is supposed to know that and not joke. Well, it's not a topic to joke about. Well, neither is dwarfism, but you were laughing at it because, it wasn't hitting your, sensitive bone. So, I don't listen to it anymore. I just thank you very much for your input. And, this is a free space zone where comics can say whatever the hell they want.
Good for you, Al, for saying that. And I'm sorry you have to deal with it, but I'm sure every club owner has to deal with that. I'm sure, because these people show up waiting for you to utter that one syllable that's going to trigger them. And then they go on social media and eviscerate you, which is why Seinfeld wrote that famous op-ed to the New York Times saying he doesn't want to work at colleges anymore, because these kids show up waiting, like anxiously waiting for you to say something that they can be triggered by. And it's just, it's a sad state of affairs.
Right. And the thing is that Seinfeld doesn't need that money from that gig, but somebody else might.
We do. Yeah. You're right. He goes home and sleeps on a mountain of cash every day. Good for him. I still have 2 kids in college. I still have to do these gigs. So I can't, I don't have the ability to say no, because as you know, colleges pay better than clubs. So, we have to do them when they're offered. And to have to navigate that woke parameters within which you can work now is just, it's getting tighter and tighter and more restrictive. And it's just tough for comics.
Yeah, I think.
What would you think Seinfeld would say about this, Jason?
Well, I was actually going to say, you guys aren't going to believe this. We were just talking about the Friars Club. I just got an alert on my phone that a certain real estate magnate is planning on purchasing the Friars Club when I get out of jail.
No way.
The first thing I'm going to do is we're going to buy it. We're going to call it the Trump Club, and we're going to bring back Tom, right? We're going to bring back Tom Cotter. And he's going to look, he was treated, excuse me. Tom was treated so unfairly by that dog on America's Got Talent. And really, where is that dog now, right? Where the hell is that dog? Nowhere to be found, but Tom is here and he's doing the stand-up dollar podcast and he's winning big. And really, it's such a disgrace what happened to that Friars Club, okay? Believe me.
I would welcome him buying it. I just want it to be alive. I don't care who buys it. Osama bin Laden can buy it. I just want it open.
Politics does make strange bedfellows.
It does. We'd have to build a wall around it, but I would love to have that club back.
Absolutely.
It's a great place. I'm answering Neil's question. Giddy up.
Hey.
The other thing is, those guys like Seinfeld, he isn't really standing up to it. He's just saying, I'm going to ignore the woke thing. But Chappelle is going after the woke thing. Billy Burr's going after the woke thing. And they have the arsenal. They too go home and sleep on a mountain of cash. So they have a low give a shit factor about the backlash they're getting. They're just like, screw it. If you don't like it, don't like it. I'm still selling a shitload of tickets, and you can either enjoy it or you don't have to enjoy it. We, the rest of us, don't have that same luxury, but I'm glad that someone's standing up for us and saying enough of this. And the pendulum will eventually swing back to hopefully some more rational perspective. I understand we have to evolve as a society and better ourselves and everything, but I mean, just make all comedy is now hate speech, and that's not the way it should be.
Well, if you
No,
think about it, none of the Friars roasts, the old Friars roasts, could have ever taken place in this kind of an environment. If you
No.
think what those guys said back there, Don
No
Rickles
way.
couldn't have had a career at all. You know,
True.
Well,
I mean,
no,
Lisa Lampanelli got out of it because, she saw the writing on the wall.
right, right.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, you just made an interesting point. Seinfeld doesn't give a shit because he's going to sell a boatload of tickets across the country. He was just down here in Florida at the Broward Center, and he sold out 2 shows, which is probably about 12,000 seats, I guess. So, and this guy is doing it 50 years. So the thing is, I believe that there's a silent majority of people out there, and it's a big majority, that don't give a shit about this stuff, and they want to be entertained and laugh, and they probably in their privacy of their homes laugh at this kind of stuff all the time. That doesn't mean that they going to make fun of somebody that's autistic or whatever, but there are a lot of funny things about everybody out there, and that's what comedians do. We highlight things. So I believe that, if the decision makers had the balls, they would stick to their guns on who they book, and they would be a lot more successful than having whiplash every time somebody complains about some little thing and then tries to cancel that particular comedian.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I will say this, though, Al, that there are venues that have had people, Antifa people and other people show up and say, we're going to cause trouble if you have this comic. There's apparently a pro-life comic that was doing a tour, and people were so against that he was pro-life. And I don't think he was bashing everyone over the head with his pro-life attitude or stance, but they just knew he was pro-life. So they were telling the venue, we're going to make trouble for you. And the venue canceled the guy. And it happened more than once. And so, at a certain point, that censorship is just, it's just an unfortunate place for where we are right now. When we're coming out of a pandemic where we couldn't work for 2 years, and now we got to deal with this shit. It's like, come on, let us, stand-up comedy is kind of a uniquely, along with jazz, an American art form, and that this country is in a weird spot right now. But you shouldn't be. You should be, wanting to laugh. You should be wanting, and we can't just do self-deprecating humor for an hour. You just can't do that. You have to poke fun at things. That comedy is mockery. It's lampooning things, and if you're not allowed to do that, then you can only talk about yourself being a short little white guy with a small dick for a little while. After a while, you got to talk about other things, and everything should be on the table.
Well, speaking of, you keep bringing up autistic patients, Dice Clay handled the autistic issue very well. He said, if the kid's autistic, give him a paintbrush.
He's still working. If anyone,
Will you?
He's a good actor, by the way. You see him in this dramatic stuff?
yeah, I saw him on that HBO thing. He was awesome on that.
He's great. He's a great actor. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Joseph, you're up there in Boston. What do you got for your Boston boy, Tom Cotter? Any questions for him?
Yeah, Tom. I mean, I know a good deal about you and Boston comedy. I'm curious to know, when you started here, like, where were you? Like, I'm guessing, were you out already by the time places like Stitches and Nick's were I mean, Nick's is still open, but like places like Stitches and places like I'm trying to think, Dick Doherty's Comedy Den, like those type of places, were you kind of out already by the time that those were really, really popping, or were like, or kind of where'd you come up in Boston? Because I'm curious, because I have my places, here and there, that I work in Boston, but I'm curious to hear about you.
Well, I'm not out yet.
Exactly. I knew that was coming.
I was lucky enough to, I started in '89 in Rhode Island, and there wasn't much comedy. So I had to decide, do I do an hour north to Boston or 3 hours south to New York? And I did do that hour north thing for 6 years. And then I moved to New York. But those are great times. And all the headliners would say to me, I feel bad for you. There's only 3 open mic nights this week. And 3 was all I needed. But back in the mid 80s, it was the rock and roll of Boston was stand-up comedy, and you couldn't take a night off. Those guys, they worked every single night. And when they took a night off, clubs would call them and say, please come. We have no comics and we have an audience. But then that all started to go downhill, and then people fled like rats off a burning ship. So a lot of guys went to LA. Some of us went to New York. The comedy scene took a little nosedive there for a while. but it's still a good comedy town. I used to say it was the best comedy town because I was a homer, and I used to point out Leno and Stephen Wright and Louis C.K. and Dane Cook at the time was killing it, and Billy Burr and Rogan. But then someone rattled off the Long Island guys to me and just humiliated me, just humbled me, because Long Island has Chris Rock, Seinfeld, Ray Romano, Kevin James, O'Donnell,
Jenny.
everybody. Yeah, it goes, all the way back to Robert Klein. And I don't know what's in the water on Long Island, but that is the best comedy breeding ground, I would argue, in the country or the world.
I still say Boston, just for the sole fact that Stephen Wright came from there, who's like my god, my idol. But
Eddie Murphy is from Long Island. I could go on. Somebody,
okay,
rattled him off to me. It's insane how many unbelievably successful, great comics have come out of Long Island.
Tom, I got to add Brooklyn to the mix though, because we got Larry David out of my high school. Chris Rock started in Brooklyn. I mean, Dice and Woody Allen, and it goes on and on. Neil Simon, go back to Neil Simon. So Brooklyn's a pretty good breeding ground too.
Yeah, a lot of those guys are kind of, could be either way there too.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, I mean, the one thing Boston comedy has going for it is the legendary Dick Doherty comedy clubs.
Yes.
God rest his soul. He just passed away last year. But just to say Dick Doherty before he dicks you, because you would have to set up tables and chairs before the show to get on stage. You'd have to work for free, seating people and stuff just to get stage time. So people used to besmirch him for it, but at least he gave you a shot. And a lot of people got started at Dick Doherty's room. So I still hold him in high regard.
I never got a chance to work there. It was kind of all shut down by the time I started, but yeah.
Is a classy person. Tom Cotter is a classy act. Well, we're getting towards the end of this. Any questions for Tom while we have him? Any other questions, guys?
Anything to plug, Tom?
This is fun.
I must tell you, we reached at least 75 people with this podcast. So here's your chance.
Here it goes. And 70 of them are family members, I'm assuming.
No,
yeah, great. I do a lot of these. This is fun. I'm sorry. What were you saying, Al?
My family wants nothing to do with me, So.
I want that chair you're sitting in. That white chair looks like a first class seat on like Emirates. Whatever you're in right now.
Hey, this is great for my back.
Nice, you win. I do a lot of podcasts. This one was actually entertaining. This was fun. Do you play the guitar, or do you just hang them up behind your head, Neil?
I play them, but you'd rather have them remain on the wall. I have my Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers signed guitar.
Nice.
And Les Paul signed my kid's guitar on my kid's birthday, and it's up there.
Wow, spectacular. Those are great.
You gotta really listen to the podcast in a few episodes from now. We are working on one where Neil is going to take us through the whole hair experience that he has.
Yes. Tom, we're going to do the hair replacement episode.
Okay, well, I should be on that. First of all, you just said, can I plug something? I got 10,000 plugs. So I'm uniquely qualified to come back for that.
Wait a minute. Are you serious though?
Oh yeah, I got a used car in my head. I spent 10 grand on this.
See, we should have.
That looks great. I would have never known that.
See, but Tom did it in the era where hair transplants worked. In other words, recently. I started out 30 years ago trying to be ahead of the curve, and I got those fucking cornrows all over the place. It was a mess. So Tom he has micrographs that you can't detect. So good job, Tom Cotter.
No, my doctor did a decent job, because I just had that little island up here, which is Billy J used to say, hell no, I won't go. And then nothing back here. And so I had to do something. Now I regret, I wish I just shaved my head, to be honest with you, because it would have been so much easier. Now I can't, because I got all these scars in my head, and I will frighten children with the surgical scars that I have in the back of my skull. But it is what it is.
Yeah, once you start, you're screwed.
Yeah, you're done.
Anyway, yeah, we're gonna do that hair replacement episode, a no miss episode for the Stand Up Toilet podcast. Anyway, Tom, thanks a million. It's great. It's fun having you on, because I feel like you're just one of us.
This was fun, and it was good. Obviously we work at night, so during the day I needed something to do. You killed an hour for me. Thank you very much. Awesome. And gentlemen, I look forward to meeting you on stage somewhere. You younger lads.
Absolutely. Me as well. Yes, I would love to do it anytime.
It'll happen.
Well, for the one and only Tom Cotter and Neil Berliner and Jason Scoop and our esteemed producer, Joe. Joe, what's your last damn name? I can't remember it. Hill?
Katz.
Katz.
First Jew in comedy, yes. Joe Katz.
Why wouldn't I remember that my favorite...
I'll tell you why, Al. It's psychological because Joseph is not typically a Jewish name. And I got to admit, I had trouble with it at the beginning too. I kept thinking like, what is this? I had trouble with your name, Joseph, at the very beginning. And I really believe that there's a disconnect between the Goyish first name and the Jewish last name.
It's very odd that you consider Joseph a Goyish first name when our most famous person in our book was named Joseph with his whole Dreamcoat scenario.
I know, but most Josephs are not Jewish these days, right?
Yeah, well, Joey, like Joey Italiano,
Joey,
that type
right,
of thing.
Joey,
But
right,
yeah,
Joey Katz. Joey
yeah,
Katz.
true, yeah. All right, you got me. I'm not really a Jew. I'm faking.
Joey Gallo. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Bob Dylan's song, Joey. About Joey.
No Columbo.
That's right. Yes.
I feel like I look more
there are
Jewish
a
than
lot of
Joe, and I'm not
Italian
Jewish at all.
Joeys out.
No, you don't, Jason. Don't say that. Don't say that.
I would have taken Scoop for Jewish.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm Jewish.
Look at that schnozzle. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Well, Jason has a whole bit on everybody thinking that he's their thing. They see
Right,
Jason
right.
and they
The
go,
halal guys think I'm one of them. They're like, "Are you Moroccan?" And I'm like, "Sorry, no." The joke is I started lying and saying I was Moroccan, so they hooked me up with extra lamb and extra rice. And
Nice.
all right.
All right, guys. This insanity unfortunately has to end. I'm Al Martin for the Stand Up Taller podcast. See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks,
wait.
everybody.
Wait. Let's take it back. Did we find anything that Mr. Cotter wanted to talk about and promote upcoming in his career?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. So coming up, I'm up, Joe, I'm up your way. I'm at Giggles Comedy Club coming up the first weekend of April.
Hell yeah.
I'm doing 4 gated communities in Florida, Woodfield Country Club, the Wynmore Theater, and 2 others. I can't remember what they are, but those are private anyway. But I'll be down in Florida. So if anyone's down there and wants to grab a meal during the day.
When is that, Tom? When is that?
This Friday night and Tuesday and Wednesday, and I just did Woodfield actually. So yeah, so on the 28th, I'm at what's it called? Hunter's Run.
Oh yeah, I know. Okay.
And 29th, I'm at High Ridge Country Club. Those are
but maybe we'll
public
do that
shows.
on-
Giggles is the next public show.
Okay, maybe we'll do lunch on the 28th or 29th if you have time then. Okay, good.
I was going to say, were there any gigs that the general public would be allowed into? No.
Giggles is one. Yeah, Giggles in Saugus, Massachusetts. That's first weekend of April, and then I've got other crap after that. It's all on my website, tomcotter.com, and I'm easy to find on social media. So please look me up.
Awesome.
What a hour. This has been truly great.
Great hour, guys. Great
Take
hour.
care, everybody.
Take care.